Hello everyone, welcome back to our Bible lessons. We've been in the Old Testament book of Daniel. If you missed some of them or you want to listen to some other Bible lessons, they're on YouTube, Sue Hay and Gay. You can go to playlists and find the different books of the Bible that we've been teaching through. It's a good way to learn God's Word. Well, Daniel was living in the strange country of Babylon. It wasn't his country, it wasn't his homeland, because he had been captured by the king of Babylon, and his hometown of Jerusalem had been burned up, and so had the beautiful temple that they had built for God. It had been burned up too. But Daniel had decided on his way to Babylon that he was still going to live for God, and he did. Daniel 1:8 said, "But Daniel purposed in his heart he would not defile himself." Defile means he wouldn't sin or cause himself to sin. So Daniel, while he was in the land of Babylon, many times Daniel had to stand up for what was right. He had to dare to stand up. Dare to be a Daniel. Dare to stand alone, dare to have a purpose firm, dare to make it known. And he did, and we should too, shouldn't we? Well, Daniel had been the friend of an important king of Babylon, King Nebuchadnezzar. And King Nebuchadnezzar had learned to believe in God because of Daniel's testimony. But now King Nebuchadnezzar has died, and there's a new king. And the new king is his grandson, King Belshazzar. And chapter 5 of Daniel opens up with Belshazzar throwing a big party. See, Belshazzar was not a friend to Daniel, and he certainly didn't obey God. He liked to do things his own way, not God's way. And he's throwing a big party, and they're all drinking wine and feasting and laughing and having the best time. And all of a sudden, the king calls for his servants. "I want you to go get the vessels of gold and silver that my grandfather, King Nebuchadnezzar, brought from Jerusalem. He had taken them out of the temple before they burned it. I want you to go get them. We're going to drink wine out of those." And so the servants went, and they got the gold vessels. There were cups, and there were pots and dishes. And they started to drink wine out of the gold pots. And they're thinking it's really funny. But you know what? It was a really bad thing to do. You know why? Because those golden cups and dishes were supposed to be used only in worshiping God. They weren't ordinary cups and dishes. The people were never supposed to drink or eat from them. Belshazzar is showing here that he didn't care about God at all. And when he broke God's rules about using those cups, he was showing that. Well, when they drank the wine out of those gold dishes and cups, they praised fake gods of gold and silver and wood and stone. The fake god was a god they had made. And these gods have eyes, but they can't see. And they have ears, but they can't hear. And they have a mouth, but they can't speak. They're not the true God. And the true God was watching from heaven, and he sees everything we do. And he is not pleased with what they're doing right now. Proverbs 15:3 says, "The eyes of the Lord are in every place, beholding the evil and the good." And God is not pleased. So God, the same hour, sends a man's hand down to write words on the wall in the palace where they are having at the banquet hall. And the king sees this hand. All they see is the fingers of a man's hand. And they're scared to death. The Bible says that his knees were knocking together. He was so scared. And his face got all white and scared. And he is wondering what is going on. So he hollers out, "Bring me my wise men." So the wise men come, and they stand before the king. And the king says, "I want you to tell me what that means up there." But you know what? The wise men couldn't tell him what it meant. They had no idea. He had even promised them that they would wear scarlet and have a gold chain about their neck and be the third ruler in the kingdom. But they still had no idea what it meant. And that scared the king even more. Well, about this time, the queen had heard what was going on, and she came into the palace to talk to the king. And she said, "Oh, king, live forever." She says, "Don't be worried and scared. There's a man in thy kingdom, and whom is the spirit of the holy gods. He is full of light and understanding and wisdom of the gods. Your grandfather made him the head of all the wise men because he could interpret dreams. Don't you remember him? He was a friend of your grandfather's." Do you know who the queen's talking about? I do. He's talking about Daniel. She says, "If you call Daniel, God will help him tell you what these words mean." So the king Belshazzar sent for Daniel. And Daniel came forward. And Daniel stood to talk to the king about what these mean, those words mean. The king said, he says, are you the Daniel that my grandfather brought out of Jerusalem, one of the children captured out of Judah? I've heard of thee, that the spirit of the gods is in thee. My wise men couldn't tell me the meaning of these words. Now, if you can tell me what they mean, you can be clothed with scarlet and have a gold chain about your neck and be the third ruler in the kingdom. Well, Daniel said to the king, "You can just keep your gifts. I don't need them." He said, "But I will tell you what the dream means." And he said, looking at the words carefully, he said, "O king, the Most High God gave your grandfather Nebuchadnezzar a kingdom of great power and splendor. But when his heart and mind were filled with pride, God removed him from his throne, and he roamed the fields, living like an animal. He was like a madman. For 7 years he did this until he knew that the Most High God rules in the kingdoms of men." And he found that out, O Belshazzar. And you, Belshazzar, knew all this. But did you also worship and obey the Lord? No, you did not. You became proud and disobeyed God. You took the sacred cups from God's temple, and you've been drinking wine from them while you're praising false gods. But you have not praised the God who gives you the breath of life and controls your destiny. So God sent the hand to write the message on the wall. And these are the words and their meaning. So meeny means numbered. God has numbered the days of your reign, and they are ended. And tekel means weighed. You have been weighed in God's balances, and you have failed the test. And aparsan means divided. Your kingdom will be divided and given to the Medes and the Persians. God was going to end his kingdom. Wow, he didn't like that message. But he did give Daniel the chain of gold to wear about his neck and the scarlet clothing to wear, and to be the third ruler in the kingdom. Well, that very night, enemy soldiers came into the city, and Belshazzar was killed, and all those people that were at the banquet. And the man that took over was Darius. And Darius and Daniel, we're going to hear about them in chapter 6 next time. You see, Proverbs 29:23 says, "A man's pride shall bring him low, but honor shall uphold the humble in spirit." And Belshazzar's pride caused him to be killed and to lose his kingdom. He was foolish not to obey God. Daniel was wise, and he knew it was right to obey God. And God blessed Daniel, and he'll bless us too if we obey him. Obedience is the very best way to show that you believe. Doing exactly what the Lord commands, doing it happily. Action is the key, do it immediately. Joy you will receive. Obedience is the very best way to show that you believe. Let's spell it O-B-E-D-I-E-N-C-E. Obedience is the very best way to show that you believe. And Daniel was doing that, wasn't he?